Hello, and welcome to The Reading Room, the podcast brought to you by your Rowan County Public Library. I'm Morgan.
I'm Atlanta.
And I'm JoJo.
And we are on a bizarre adventure today. Because we want to focus mostly, less on December stuff and more on January stuff, which I know is weird for a podcast that's airing in the middle of December, probably. But with the 1st of January being a holiday, we're going to be closed. We're not doing anything that day. If you're doing anything that day, it's probably not going to be listening to us. So that means that the next episode of the podcast will air on January the 8th. And that means some of our January programming will already have happened. So we wanted to catch you up on that before it's too late. So let's go ahead and to make sure, in case, I don't know who listens all the way through. I don't know. You're allowed to quit in the middle. It's fine. So for those people, let's go ahead and get the important stuff out of the way. We'll let you know that the library will be closed December 23rd, 24th, and 25th. So for Christmas, that is going to be the Thursday before, and then all the way through, of course, until Monday the 27th. I'm not listing the 26th because it's a Sunday. We would be closed anyway. And then we will be closed on December 31st and January 1st for New Year's Eve and New Year's Day. So with that out of the way, let's talk about that January programming. So this has been a busy month.
Oh, it has.
It really kind of, I knew it was coming, and it still sort of caught me off guard, because we were just having this conversation about how we've been stair-stepping back into programming and back into the library kind of being as busy as we're used to it, and it hasn't been that for a couple years. So I know Atlanta remembers, and of course, Jordan, you're a bit newer, so you came on while COVID kind of had us shut down and have not had this experience.
Yeah. I didn't expect it to get busy again, though, honestly, until after the holidays. So it still caught me off guard.
Yeah.
I'm glad, though. I'm so happy that people are coming in to celebrate, because I know you won't remember this since you did start after. Goodness, I can't believe that. Oh my gosh. Okay, so after everything went crazy is when you started working here. But I remember the library being a very celebratory place, not just around the holidays, but any specific event that's coming up. And we were lucky enough to have our Holly Jolly holiday drive-through, which did go well, but it's kind of a replacement for our holiday events that we would normally have. And it would have been a huge indoor thing with so many patrons and so much fun. So seeing their faces in here does make me happy, and I'm glad that we do get to spend the holidays together, but I also hope it gets back to busy afterwards.
Yeah, I kind of do too, because I miss our holiday open house. That's such a big event, which is, of course, expressly why this is the second year in a row we haven't been able to do it, because you can't have live music and a catered buffet or whatever, and hundreds of people coming and going and getting presents and kids sitting on Santa's lap for pictures. You can't have that when there is a risk of transmitting a deadly virus.
Yeah.
But as more people get vaccinated, and as everyone just kind of gets used to masks are becoming a matter of course, and I think that's going to stick around. We've already seen it. So. It very quickly entered the realm of fashion.
Yeah.
And now a lot of people are seeing the benefits, people who didn't really have a reason to think about it before, but they've done this in East Asia, for example, for years. Now, you have lawyers who have really nice filtered silk masks to match their ties in court. And you have folks who are going to work like us who have several masks that match different outfits. I have a gray one, I have a blue one, I have a white one for everything that I wear at the office.
Yeah. Oftentimes now, too, I'm seeing if I'm shopping on just any general, women's store, almost every shirt that they have now is made to come with a matching mask, which
That's
is super
so
cute.
Yeah, they come in a set in the same way that sometimes, if you buy a tie, you get a handkerchief.
Yeah.
And on men's stores now, I'm seeing things like that, too. If you go to Gentleman's Warehouse or Men's Warehouse, whatever it's called, you are going to like the way you look in this mask that comes with the handkerchief and the necktie.
It's just so practical, because,
It really
why
is.
not?
It is, and it's practical in more ways than one, because not only does it help to some degree to limit the spread of COVID, regardless of what variant that is. But also, it's wintertime. You get dry, cracked lips.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. Mask. Someone has like a fever blister or something. Like, who cares? Mask. Forgot to brush your teeth. Whatever. Mask. Like, I'm only going in for milk and bread anyway. No one will know I have a mask on.
Yeah.
So a lot of people are seeing other practical effects that, as an accessory, beyond just the health concerns, it's probably going to stick around. And as that continues to happen, I think that, we kind of get back to some semblance of normalcy, and we're going to see more people coming in, and we're going to start slowly going back to those kinds of events, which is great because we're already back to some regular events. Of course, we still have children's story time every Monday and Thursday at 4 p.m., unless there is a holiday or a closure or something that interrupts that, of course. Like, for example, we are going to be closed on January the 17th. And so that is a Monday. Obviously, we're not going to have a story time that day. We may have a digital story time because that's something that we've learned from the pandemic. And I know that during October, November, December, we have had Facebook videos that have been story times from both Jess and Sandy. And that will probably continue at least when we can't do an in-person one. We may not have a digital story time every time we have an in-person story time. But when we can't have an in-person story time for any reason, there will probably be a video, I'm imagining. Toddler Time will continue to be every Tuesday at 10:15 a.m.
I love Toddler Time, and it's going so well. We've got a great group of kiddos in there. If there are people that are missing out on things to do on Tuesday, please stop by. It's so fun. You get to read books with Miss Jess and do little activities. They painted last week, and then there was one time that they washed pumpkins. So we've got like all of these 2- and 3-year-olds scrubbing pumpkins with toothbrushes. It was the most precious event ever.
That's very good. And there's like sing-alongs and stuff because Jess has worked hard to pick like good, solid, enriching books for them to listen to with colorful pictures and everything. And there's always some sort of like a sensory activity. So it's really great for kids 4 and under. And it happens at just the right time for you to drop the big kids off at school and maybe grab breakfast yourself and have a minute to catch your breath. And then if you want to swing by here on the way home, it's at 10:15 a.m. every Tuesday. And the second Monday of every month, of course, is Craftin' Around, which is also at 10 a.m. from 10 to 2. There will be a different craft every month. And teens and adults are both invited. So if you were 13 and up, then that is for you. And, I feel like I should address this because we've gotten the question several times. People are like, well, a lot of people work in the middle of the day. Kids go to school in the middle of the day. How's anyone supposed to, if you're 13 and up, how are you supposed to come to a program that's 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.? And the answer is that is aimed at people who can come. So like homeschool kids, for example, or retirees, or people who work third shift, or whatever. So there will be other crafts for folks who cannot make it to Craftin' Around. So don't worry, if you can't come, you will still have the opportunity to make some kind of craft. And as always, we provide all the materials. It's always at no cost to you. So that's the regular stuff. There's going to be, what else? Movie night. Movie night's always the third Thursday, so that will be January the 20th. The movie for January is going to be My Salinger Year.
What is that?
I've never heard of that.
Well, that is, I actually had to look it up myself because, of course, when I was doing the marketing for it, I had to advertise what the rating is. And it's actually going to be our first rated R movie for movie night.
Wow.
I think. I'm not sure if we've shown a rated R movie before, so I think this might be our first one. At the very least, it's our first one since we've brought the program back.
Right.
And that is why we always advertise the rating, because that gives you the option to decide whether or not your kids and teens should come with you, or whether this is an adult's night, just for the parents, or for you, a single adult, or whatever,
like that
adult, no child.
Different ratings, because I did actually think that we would kind of stay in the same general vicinity around PG, maybe PG-13. But I do like the different ratings because that'll kind of bring in variety for everybody. every time that we have the event.
True.
Exactly. And it gives us the option to have a plethora of movies for movie night instead of being locked into just Spy Kids and Wreck-It Ralph or something.
And who knows? I mean, if movie night gets really successful, we may someday be able to split it, Like there might be an adult movie night and a kids movie night.
Well, and again, a movie night for adults. We always have to specify, not an adult movie night, a movie night for adults.
Right.
A grown-up movie
More
night.
More rated R things, PG-13 things.
Yes.
And then, whenever we want to watch G-Force, you can go into the kiddo movie night.
Exactly. If we're going to watch Paw Patrol, the motion picture or something, then they'll be in the kids area. Because we kind of did used to do that. And of course, with COVID and everything, we're having to adapt. So I'm sure that as people come and everyone gets used to doing programming again, we will go back in that direction, but it'll be a slow thing. Mm-hmm. But as always, a note to you, the listener, of course, if there is something we're doing for one age group that you would like to see done for another age group, whether that's because you as an adult perhaps would like to do something that you see the teens getting to do that's not available to you because you're not a teen, so you can't come to that program. Or if it's something that you're doing as an adult and you go, man, I have kids that would really like this. Actually, could we do a children's version of this? That's fine, and we love those suggestions. So make sure you tell us, especially in writing, email us, leave us a Facebook comment, tweet at us, comment on YouTube under the podcast videos, wherever. Let us know that you would like to see that done. If you want a Lego club for seniors, or if you want, a cartoon club for kids, kind of like anime club for teens and so on.
I would love to have the anime club for adults.
Right. That's one that we've heard several times already. So but my Salinger year is briefly, apparently it takes place in late 90s New York. And a young writer lands a day job at J.D. Salinger's agency.
Oh.
And of course, J.D. Salinger being J.D. Salinger, it's like, I don't want to answer my fan mail. So the main character gets tasked with responding to Salinger's fan mail. And it's almost like, I'm led to understand, I've not seen it. Because it actually is a fairly new movie. It came out in 2020.
Oh.
Yep. So I've not seen it yet, but it is sort of a coming-of-age film in a way because the protagonist is an adult, but it is about her working alongside this established writer and literary agent and finding her own voice as she is pretending to be J.D. Salinger responding to Salinger's fan mail.
Oh, I see where you're going. That's pretty cool.
So she's pretending to be Salinger, but she also has to give a genuine response to all of this stuff, and she's figuring out, so who am I? How do I write?
Yeah.
That kind of thing.
That reminds me, real quick, book recommendation. That reminds me of a book called Verity by Colleen Hoover, which is completely out of her ordinary. She always does a lot of cheesy romance stuff. I do love her, and I'm not saying anything bad. But Verity is a thriller, and it is about an author who's not very established. She's more so a journalist, but she writes. And she gets hired to ghostwrite for a very popular author who has a whole series, but there are 5 more books left in that series. And they need someone to ghostwrite for her because she's had a stroke or something has happened where she's laid up in bed and cannot write for the next several years. Mm-hmm. So they hire her as a ghostwriter to show up and finish the series. So she absolutely has to write in the exact same voice that original author had, but she's figuring her own way out. It's interesting the way you worded that. It reminded me of that book.
That's neat. I'll have to check that out,
but it's also kind of creepy because she has to move into the woman's house. Yeah. The woman's in bed up there, and her husband still lives there, and it's just an interesting story.
That reminds me, what was the name of this movie? It was strange. It was a horror film, and it was about this woman who Oh, she thought that she was somebody else. She thought she was the woman who actually lived in the house because she had to move in to take care of her, and she was helping to do her job kind of like that. And I don't remember, the other woman was something like a writer, so she like kind of took over, and she got so into it because she had to think like this other woman to do her job. She wound up deluding herself into believing she was the other woman, and that the actual author or whoever that was laid up in bed was like her sick mom or something who had Alzheimer's or dementia. And so whenever she claimed like, no, it's me, I'm Jane Doe, she'd be like, sure, mom, and would get very sad about it because her mother was mentally ill and couldn't remember and thought that she was her. And it turned out at the end that she was the one who had gone crazy.
That is so interesting.
And I wish I could remember the name of that, but it was like an indie film on Netflix or Hulu or something. And so I can't, the title didn't stick with me because it didn't have an actor in it that I knew by heart or recognized on sight, and it didn't have a famous director or producer. So I have to look it up and find that. But it was really interesting, and it was one of the few exceptions to my rule of, especially when it comes to horror, I detest when they Scooby-Doo me at the end, because my favorite type of horror is usually supernatural horror. Yeah. So when you get to the end expecting a ghost, you've been shown a ghost, and then it was all in their head the whole time. I hate that, not least of all because I hate it when media goes, the real spooky, like, boogeyman was mental illness the entire time, or something. And so very rarely do I find it to be a satisfying finished piece of media when I get to the end and they're like, actually, it was all in the character's head. And this time it worked.
When
and I was like, whoa.
Well, those are my favorite. When it's done well, though.
It has to be done well. And there are a few thrillers out there, a few psychological thrillers that do it well, that they manage to pull it off. And those are the ones that I remember, like The Ward. Have you ever seen that?
No.
It is a movie, and I will try not to spoil it, because, of course, I already spoiled the other one, but you don't know the name of the movie.
Good luck.
So good luck. Good luck. But for this one, the movie is called The Ward, and it is about a young woman who is in a psychological hospital.
I have seen this, I believe.
And she is in a ward, a wing of the hospital, with a number of other young girls who all have different problems. And she starts suspecting something is wrong because the girls start disappearing, and she sets out to find out what's happening to them. And of course, like, the orderlies and the doctor in charge of the place are not telling her anything. And they're like, don't worry about it. It's fine. No, they got better or something and went home. And she's like, oh no, that's super sus. Yeah. And she starts noticing things like, for example, the different rooms that all the girls live in. Sometimes they'll just change the name of who's in that room on the plaque on the outside of the door, like they have a chalkboard, and they'll just write down as different girls in there, and then a girl will disappear and they'll just erase it. And she's like, okay, something is up. And at the end, it is a psychological thriller, and at the end it all comes together really cleanly. And it's one of the few exceptions where I was kind of glued to my seat the whole time, and when they explained what had happened, I was like, oh, okay. And I really was not expecting the twist.
Well, I have a quick fun fact to share that you made me think of in a movie. Of something like, this is a case that actually happened in real life, though. A lot of people have seen this movie, but also a lot of people haven't. But if you haven't watched Coal Miner's Daughter, with Sissy Spacek, it's one of the best performances ever, and I found out that there's actually very good reason for that. It's because Sissy Spacek, who plays Loretta Lynn and filmed On Site in Kentucky, actually had that happen where she got so into the role that for a very long time she thought that she was Loretta Lynn and had to go through months, maybe even years of extensive therapy over it.
That happened to Jim Carrey, too. I don't remember what the character was, but they made a whole documentary about how he completely lost it as this character.
Know that happened to
him.
He
became
I'm not shocked.
It was,
I didn't know that.
It was when he was a little younger. Like, it wasn't recent. It was when he was becoming
an earlier
Jim
movie.
Carrey. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and also, like, kind of tragic too. Like, you see, that's the danger of method acting, where they get so into the character. A lot of people theorize, and I think incorrectly, that is one of the things that cost us Heath Ledger. is a lot of people, it's popular theory that he, in order to get the perfect Joker character for those dark Batman movies, he had to tap into something awful inside himself. And once he found that person, that the Joker was in him, he couldn't live with himself. And I think that's just, kind of over the top melodramatic fan speculation.
I kind of agree with that.
It was a lot more tragic what really happened.
Maybe that makes The Dark Knight a little more interesting, but this is a human being.
Right, exactly.
Well, I think why people end up losing themselves too in method acting is also because of how much, that just kind of shines a light into how much pressure comes from that industry. I mean, they make people go as far as to gain a lot of weight in a short period of time or lose a lot of weight. And which is
part of what they suspect led to the death of Carrie Fisher.
Yeah.
Yep, she was already ill and had to lose a lot of weight, or was asked to lose a lot of weight, for this part very quickly. So
Carrie Fisher is the love of my life.
Drowned in moonlight, strangled by her own bra.
I love her.
And the same thing has happened to lots of actors. I know Christian Bale.
I was just thinking of that when you said lose a lot of weight. Christian Bale for
The Machinist, I think. And Ryan Gosling, he put on a lot of weight for a part and then didn't get the part.
I mean, your doctor always tells you specifically don't ever gain or lose a lot of weight at one time. It's horribly unhealthy. But they do it all the time. In fact, they're expected to or even forced to.
Yeah, Sean Astin, who plays Samwise Gamgee in The Lord of the Rings, had to gain, it was a crazy number. It was more than 50 pounds that he had to gain to get that. Not to get that role, but to fill that role.
Yeah.
Which I find believable if you see younger Sean Astin. Even now as an adult man, he's kind of kept that weight on. And I think that maybe The Lord of the Rings did that to him, because if you see him younger in The Goonies, for example.
Right. Or
sure, he was only 14, but that was a small boy.
Or in 50 First Dates with Adam Sandler and Drew Barrymore. He's in that movie as Drew Barrymore's brother, I think.
And he's an athletic.
Yeah, he's he's ripped in that movie. And that was right around the same time, either right before or right after The Lord of the Rings.
Right.
So that means that either he put on a lot of weight right after that role for the other one, or he lost a lot of weight coming off of Lord of the Rings in order to get in order to be jacked for 50 First Dates. So
he made a great Samwise.
He did. He was perfect in that role, honestly. And I thought everybody did so well in those movies. Those are some of my favorite movies of all time. No movie adaptation is perfect. And of course, if you're going to do something like the Lord of the Rings, you have so much to live up to. But they are some of my favorite movie adaptations. And I get why they cut the Tom Bombadil stuff. I get it. And
doesn't mean I'm not sad about it.
I'm not. Yeah, I'm still sad about it, but I get it, and I get why they made some of the script changes that they did. But it's taken me a long time to get around to this point. But as an adult, I can say this: when those movies were new, I didn't like Elijah Wood as Frodo.
Really?
That was the only person I thought was miscast. I did not like him as Frodo.
Was he too young?
No.
He's too Elijah Wood.
He's too Elijah Wood. It's Elijah Wood. There's something about his stage presence that I felt it lends itself really well to some other movies he's been in. And I didn't feel like it clicked for me in Lord of the Rings. And part of that might be because as a child, I was used to Elijah Wood as a child actor. I remember him being in things like North. Flipper, yeah, stuff like that. And so maybe it's because of that, because another movie that he was in where he objectively did very well, but which I also did not 100% enjoy his performance in, was Sin City. See, Sin City's so good, and he was very good in it, but watching it, I was like, that's kind of weird that Elijah Wood's in this movie. And, obviously, that's my fault, because he did a good job.
He's kind of a weird guy in general. He has such a weird vibe, but I have grown to love it. And, well, to counter that, see, I'm the opposite. I saw Lord of the Rings when I was very young, and that was my first little taste of Elijah Wood. So now whenever I see him in other things, I'm like, oh, there's Frodo.
Right. And I think that's what it is first impressions are powerful, and you remember the first time you saw somebody. So Macaulay Culkin will always be Kevin from Home Alone to me, no matter what else he does. Likewise, Elijah Wood will always be the Elijah Wood from my childhood, and that might be what my problem was in Lord of the Rings, is I was watching this and I was seeing him as like Huckleberry Finn
that
or
makes
whatever.
sense. Yeah, he did get around a lot as a child.
Oh yeah,
actor.
he was a famous
in
child
many
actor.
Of the movies that were coming
He
out.
and Macaulay Culkin were the big ones at the time as far
and
as
they were
boy.
Friends.
Yeah.
Oh,
I just
know
remembered
that.
a bunch of behind the scenes pictures that I've seen of those boys together.
I hope that they're still friends. I don't know, but
I
hope
did
so
love
too.
him when he did Wilfred though, because that was just such a contrast from every role ever.
Yeah.
So it was
I
hilarious.
think he brings a beautiful. This sounds weird, but a beautiful femininity to a character that we don't see in a lot of other male actors, and I think that he. Also in a nice way, but he brings about something whiny, like Luke Skywalker saying that he wants to go out with his friends. Like he brings about like this whole different attitude into a film, which worked for Frodo, in my opinion. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and
it's like he's got a certain innocence.
Yeah, actually.
Innocence.
Yeah.
I think maybe that's what I meant.
That's what it is.
I think of like I love Star Wars, and so like I am one of those people that I kind of hate Luke Skywalker at first because he's very whiny, but it's like in an unbelievable way. Like I'm not sold on that character.
Yeah, like go some power converter.
Yeah, but Elijah Wood brings ingenuity, I guess, to that. Yeah, we're talking in circles around it, but that's a good way to put it, and maybe that's why it was off-putting to see him in Sin City.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, but he's just a little guy. And, I don't believe that he's a serial killer.
That's kind of how I felt about Wilfred. It's like, it's almost uncomfortable because he's definitely not innocent in that show. But at the same time, it's uncomfortable intentionally and it works.
Yeah, or like in when he was in Dirk Gently.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yes.
I was like, this is straddling a strange line for me where it's very good. He's delivering an excellent performance. But what's he doing here? Why Elijah Wood? And I think that's it. And that's why maybe he does work in Sin City, is because it makes you uncomfortable. If you know who Elijah Wood is, you're looking at Elijah Wood and you're looking at his boyish good looks and you're looking at that aura of innocence and all that history. And then he's a serial killer. It's like, oh, this is like that one time that Denzel Washington played a bad guy, and he did it so well that now I can't watch his good guy movies because I don't believe him anymore.
Like that one time that Robin Williams did 1 hour photo, and we were all like, oh my God.
Yes, because actually, that's a great comparison. Because Robin Williams did that a number of times in like Dad of the Year.
World's Greatest Dad.
Not Dad of the Year, World's Greatest Dad. Or what was that other movie where he was in it with, it was like Al Pacino, Robert De Niro or somebody, and he was a serial killer and he had to help the detective solve the mystery. It wasn't Seven.
I don't think I know that one.
I don't know that one either, but I want to watch it now.
It was...
I love it when actors do that too, though, because it just, people get so used to them in a certain role that they think that's all that they can do, and then they jump straight into something totally different.
And they show that range.
They can do anything.
Insomnia.
I haven't seen that.
Insomnia from 2002. That's what it was. And it was Al Pacino is the... Yeah. And so, when they show that range, sometimes it can be uncomfortable for us if we're used to seeing them typecast, and then they break out of type, and it shows how good they are as an actor or a singer. Like Lady Gaga did this. A lot of her fans were upset when she started releasing songs like A Million Reasons, because it wasn't like music she had done. But you've seen Lady Gaga go from pop to jazz to R&B to, I think she did a country album. Like, she's Lady Gaga. She can kind of do whatever she wants.
Right.
And she's good at it, and you just have to deal with it. Right. And if you don't want to consume that media, that's fine, but you can't point at it and be like, oh, she sucks now. She's no good at any of this.
She's a triple threat.
Exactly. And so that's what it is. Which, all of that to say, like I said, as an adult, I'm grown enough now to acknowledge and discuss, like, he wasn't my favorite in that movie, but now, years later, I watched The Lord of the Rings. I'm like, oh my God,
I get it.
Elijah Wood was so good as Frodo. Like, wow, he really got, they cast this really well. Honestly, perfect. Changed nothing. So,
sorry to run away with the Elijah Wood kick, but I have one more.
Oh no, go ahead. We're still on. We ride this train to the station.
Elijah Wood was on that YouTube show Hot Ones, and if you haven't watched Hot Ones, they line up some of the hottest hot wings that you can imagine, and they have to eat them all in a row while answering some of the world's most interesting questions. It's an interviewer that looks for things that they've never answered before, and so you get to see someone's personality in a way that the other interviewers that you've seen, like on the Tonight Show and stuff like that, you don't get to know these people the way that you know them when they are eating a really hot chicken wing. And Elijah Wood's episode was one of my favorites. I didn't realize how smart this dude was. Like, just listening to the way he speaks about film and like how he wants to direct in a certain way, and how the horror stuff is the favorite stuff of his that he's ever done. His mind works in that way. So I find it very interesting, especially that episode of Hot Ones, to take a look into their minds.
That's really awesome, actually, because, I mean, it makes sense. Folks like Elijah Wood, like Jodie Foster, like Drew Barrymore, they grew up in Hollywood. So they know a lot about the inner workings, both bad and good, that we will never know. And then when they leverage that to their advantage by going from child star to director and executive producer, it always is impressive to me, the stuff that they're able to turn out, because they have, as you said, kind of triple threat. Like, they've acted their whole lives. They've done a bunch of different parts. Now they're writing and directing. So they know, this is a weird analogy. If you don't play video games, you won't get this. But it's kind of like in an MMO, like, Final Fantasy 14 or Guild Wars or something. You have the roles of like tank, healer, and DPS. Playing all of those makes you better at all of those, because you know what you want from the other role.
Yeah.
Or,
a director that has acted knows what they're looking for from an actor more than a director that hasn't.
Exactly. A writer who has acted knows what they want from an actor. And also, like, a writer who has directed knows how to write for a director to convey their vision, to get it in front of the camera the way that they want it to be seen. I don't know why I went to video games. So many people are not going to get that.
See, that makes me think of, like, in fast food, I had to train so many people who were coming in who'd either never worked for that company specifically or had never even worked food, and I was training them to go straight into management. And that's just the kind of thing that you don't expect great things from.
It's easier if you've done it.
Exactly.
Don't lead. Don't ask someone to do something that you can't do yourself. I feel like it's
and a kitchen is a great example. That's a much better example. Thank you so much. So it's like, if you have people who are taking orders and waiting tables, and you have people who are making the food, and then you have people who are eating the food. So if you have done all of that, if you have eaten in restaurants, if you have waited tables, and if you have cooked for people, then you know what the other parts of the triangle, so to speak, want from you, and it makes you better at that. Like, I feel as though, having eaten in a restaurant, I know what to expect from a chef and from a wait person. Like, I want what I ordered. I want it the way that I ordered it, but I came here to eat a certain thing, so I have certain expectations, but also I wouldn't have come here if I didn't think it was going to be good, blah, blah, blah. As someone who has waited tables, it's like, I know what I like and hate in a customer, and being middleman is not fun, so you know how to deliver an order to a chef, you know how to take an order from and engage a customer, and as a chef, like, it's not the waiter's fault if something gets made wrong and blah, blah, blah.
People who've been on the bottom of the totem pole, so to speak, definitely have a lot more of a realistic expectation of what they can get from your employees.
They're well-rounded individuals.
Yes. I feel as though, how there are countries in the world that have compulsory military service, like South Korea, right? I feel like we should have compulsory customer service. If everyone had to work for 6 months in retail or fast food, everyone in that society would be so much nicer and more considerate and more compassionate and more socially responsible. Like, we would not be having a COVID problem because everyone would have gotten vaccinated and masked up the first day and just stayed home, because it's like, no, I've dealt with that customer in a store. I
love it when I go through, like, a drive-thru and I have to wait, like, an extra 5 minutes, and they're apologizing and about to have, a breakdown and anxiety attack, and I'm just over here like, you are totally fine, I get it.
Yeah.
And just, honestly, they're almost surprised every time I have that reaction, and that makes me sad that more people are not very understanding.
Well,
they should be.
Yeah. I
agree that having had that experience, a person is going to be better at, like you said, better at navigating the world, but I think better at navigating, like, literally any other job.
Yeah.
Now you know how to work as part of a team. You know how to, I mean, take orders, you understand policies, like
you understand how to function under high stress.
Clock in and clock out, go home at the end of the day. There's a lot of stuff that you learn in fast food or retail or customer service that might not hit you if you end up in an HR job to start out with.
Yeah, we call that sort of thing unskilled labor, and we act like, that's a training job, a demo job for teenagers who are still part-time students or something. But there's no such thing as unskilled labor. There's just undervalued labor. And there is so much from working those jobs that we consider to be menial, whether that is custodial services or food services or retail services or hospitality services, that make you better at other jobs. Like, I know it's been many a year since I waited a table, but having done that made me a better librarian because I was able to do things like take an order. And when someone comes up and is like, do you have such and such a book? Can I get it this way? Can I get it in this format? Or, oh, you don't have it. Okay, well, what do we do now? And that's the same thing as saying, oh, well, I'm sorry, we're out of that. Can I offer you a substitution? Or, well, we don't have it in large print. Would you like the audio book and so forth?
I think it really would help you just navigate, honestly, any life interaction, because now I've learned from that experience of just working kind of at the bottom of the food chain somewhere. Now when I go somewhere else, even if it's somewhere completely different, like going from food to a library, I'm able to know that there's things going on behind the scenes that I'm unaware of. So it can make me a better person and just more patient and kind in general, because I know there's things going on that I'm probably not aware of.
Yes. Well, I always grew up as a child, like hearing from my parents and people around me, always be kind because it costs you almost nothing. And you might be the first kind person that someone else has dealt with today.
That's very true.
You don't know if someone has dealt with 1,000 people before you. Those other 999 people might have been mean or rude to them or inconsiderate or whatever. So be the one kind person in somebody's day.
That gives them hope for their day, gives them hope for humanity.
Yeah, just leave someone's day better than you found it.
Think about how nice it is whenever you've had like a really hard day, you finally get off of work and you're like driving through McDonald's, you need to get that one last thing, and they've got this big old smile on their face and they tell you to have a great day. Like, it may be part of their job, but sometimes you can feel it, like that they mean it. So if you can be that person just on the street, why not? Like, don't make people think, is that part of their job? Like, make them say, that was a really nice person.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. And of course, so we'll pull this train into the station and tell you that we are always working to try and leave your day a little better than we found it when you interact with us. So that is why, in addition to the programming that we have been doing the past few months, we are going to be bringing back some other programs that have been on hiatus. And that includes, starting in January, on the first Wednesday, which for January is going to be the 5th, January the 5th, Teen Anime Club is coming back. We've talked about it several times before. That's going to be from 4:30 to 6:30. And everyone 12 or 13 and up is welcome. This month's theme, I think Megan said, is going to be My Hero Academia.
Well, about 12 to 13 to 17. Because if I was able to go, I would.
Yes, thank you. Yes, 12 to 13 and up to 17. So teens. It is for teens. Teen Anime Club. But yeah, they're doing My Hero Academia. So that's a very popular anime right now. We do have most or all of the manga, I think, up to, it's still ongoing.
At least most, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if we're current.
Like 40.
Yeah,
a lot.
Yeah, it's up there. It's starting to get kind of like Bleach and Naruto. Like, I don't know if we can catch up, but we have most of it. So she's going to be introducing some new folks if they haven't seen it to that. If you're already a fan of BNHA, then jump in. 4:30 to 6:30, there's going to be snacks, there's going to be activities, and of course you're going to watch some My Hero Academia. And we're also going to be bringing back Writer's Workshop. That is the last Wednesday of the month. So that is going to be 4:30 to 6:30 on January the 26th, Writers Workshop. And if you didn't get to come to Writers Workshop before the pandemic, you missed out. It's a great program. It is for new writers. It is for veteran writers. It doesn't matter. Everyone's welcome. If you are an aspiring novelist, if you are a fan fiction author, if you are into storyboarding for video games or tabletop games, if you play Dungeons and Dragons, you want to learn how to write a better campaign, it doesn't matter. Go to Writers Workshop. Everyone shares their experiences and their writing. There's going to be different themes and topics for you to write around, and then everyone will share and kind of, I don't know if they do like critiquing like you would in a creative writing class, but I know that everyone shares their work, and so you're going to learn something valuable, because we always learn when we share, when we read something that other people wrote. Just like we were talking about with the movies and other media, it always helps to broaden your palette, to step out and don't just watch Elijah Wood's child acting movies. Also, be sure to watch Sin City, and be sure to watch Lord of the Rings and so
hot
forth.
ones.
And hot ones.
Yes.
So yeah, and I think January's theme for Writers Workshop is inspiration.
Whoa.
Which is a pretty broad theme, of course. What inspires you? I hope that you will be inspired to come to the program and to write something. And of course, if you want to write something in advance and bring it and share, that's fine. Or if you want to write something during the program while you're there, then Megan's going to be leading people through some writing exercises and giving some prompts and so forth. And that's a really great program. We also are going to be, as far as I know right now, we're going to be bringing back On Board, which is board game nights. So that is the last Tuesday of the month from 4 to 6. So in January, that means that will be the 25th. So 4 to 6 p.m., January the 25th, board game night. And of course, we get together. We have a bunch of board games here at the library. We have Gloomhaven. We have Betrayal at House on the Hill, which is one of my favorites. We have Arkham Horror. We've got card games like Magic the Gathering. If you want to bring your own board game, you are also welcome to do that as well. And we'll find a group to play with, because people have done that before. Folks have brought in Risk, or they brought in like Axis and Allies and some other things that we don't have. We've got all of the staples like Monopoly and Chutes and Ladders and stuff for kids. So that means that it is targeted at teens and adults, 13 and up. But if you have a kid that wants to come, that is okay. You can bring a child with you if you have a younger sibling. If you have a kid of your own, then that's fine. We'll find something to accommodate them as well. Now, we still have a few other programs that I have not heard yet that are coming off of hiatus. I've heard sometimes we're coming back full blast in January. We're just kicking the door all the way open and it's all coming back.
Mm-hmm.
But I also have not gotten official confirmation from the showrunners that Creative Coloring and Coffee, or Preserving Your Heritage, the Genealogy Club, or that Lego Club is coming back. Or for certain about technology classes. Now, I think that Device Advice is coming back. I believe that that's returning in January. I don't know for sure, and if it does, I don't know what the date will be. It was originally going to be the first Tuesday of the month at 4 p.m. So look for that. We will announce it on our website. I know a lot of you have asked us about it. That's one of our most popular programs, and one that y'all have asked over and over and over again, like, when's it coming back? Oh boy, when are we getting computer classes? So we have heard you. We do want it to come back. We just have to consider that that's a lot of people sitting down with their heads close together over a computer screen, sharing the same air in a confined space. Mm-hmm. And of course, everyone is welcome to come to computer classes. It doesn't matter what your age is. But most of the time, the largest part of our participants are senior citizens. And those are folks who are at the greatest risk for contracting COVID if it's floating around, even if they're vaccinated. So because of that, we have to be extra careful. But ideally, if everything goes as planned, then hopefully, and don't hold me to this, If you go out and say, well, Morgan told me that it was coming back on January the 4th at 4 p.m., don't do that. Don't do that. I will find you and you will hear about it. So do not put words in my mouth, but we hope that it will be back January the 4th from 4 to 6 p.m. If that changes, make sure that you check our website. We'll plaster it everywhere. We'll have it on our social media. We'll put signs out in the library physically, and it will be in the mass mailer as well. If you are not on our mailing list for our monthly community flyer, that always has everything we are doing for the month, like the big highlights of what's going on. It has news and announcements. So make sure to let us know at the front desk or call or whatever that you want to sign up for that. Give us your email address. We'll put you on the list. And of course, there are all kinds of places around town like Fuzzy Duck and, Kroger and everywhere that, all kinds of the daycares, restaurants, Sawstone Brewery, Rollover Ice Cream, Coffee Tree, all of these great places where you can see that flyer in person physically if you do not get the digital version of it. And we send that out to the schools too. So if you are a teacher or school librarian, look forward to that. We try to let you know and include you.
Have you heard any word on Child Club out of curiosity? I understand why that one's obviously something that would be incredibly difficult to bring back.
That's another one kind of like Device Advice and Lego Club, where the reason that they have held off on reinstating that one is because that's a lot of folks who, they're going to be around their families at home. They're going to cook food. They're going to bring that food in, and then everyone's going to sit in the same room, breathing the same air and eating that food together.
I think you've also got the problem of it being one of our largest events. Device Advice was always quite popular, and Child Club is quite popular.
Yeah.
A lot like the book club. I feel like those are some of our biggest events.
Yes, and so Litwits and Child Club, I have not received confirmation that they're coming back yet. We'll try to give you an update on that. And of course, because this is going to air on December the 18th, again, that's why because we're not doing an episode on January the 1st, the next one will be the 8th. So that's why we're trying to give you a heads up about January programming. If some of these come back and we have not covered them in this podcast and you are listening to it, be sure to check our website. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Twitter and Instagram and YouTube and Goodreads, because it's one of those places we will tell you about it. So if something comes back after we have said here that we're not sure, we will do our best to get the word out. We will try to let you know. I might even put it on the radio or in the newspaper. Mm-hmm. I don't know, but we will try to let people know. So yeah, we definitely want to see those programs come back. I'm really eager for it, and I hope that everything will come back. The last scheduled event that we probably need to cover is, for those of you who are interested, there will be a board meeting for our Board of Trustees at 3:30 on January the 19th. Those are, as of right now, always the third Wednesday of the month at 3:30 p.m. Those are open to the public. You are more than welcome to come listen into policy discussions. They talk about the budget and what we're doing at the library, where it's going next. We have some exciting stuff in store that we're very, very excited for this year. Mm-hmm. And they're going to be talking about that stuff at the board meeting. So if you have an opinion, if you have a question, come talk to our director, come talk to our board, meet those people in person. If you don't know who runs the library, it's not us. It's not us. It is them. And you can come meet them in person, get their autograph, ask your questions, your celebrity, expose questions of our Board of Trustees. So, also, I guess, because we're not going to have an episode coming out on the 1st, but you're going to have a blog post coming out on the 1st, Atlanta.
Oh, yes. As always, there will be a brand new book list on the 1st of the month. I don't want to give away just yet what the theme is going to be. We're not all the way there yet, but please check out the blog. It'll go up on the 1st, but you can read it for the rest of your life. So check it on the 2nd, check it on the 3rd, whatever works out. But if you want to get a sneak peek at what's going to be on the blog, we will always have a new display up at the front of the library one day before that blog post goes up. So check on the last day of the previous month, and you might see something that hasn't been on the blog yet.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of reading recommendations and displays, our sweet and sour, naughty and nice staff picks are coming to an end. They're wrapping up at the end of December. And starting in January, you are going to start a new season, a new quarter of staff picks, aren't you?
We have a whole new quarter coming. And I will tell you the theme of that one because I don't know what anyone's picks are yet. And it will be a surprise to you just as much as it is to me. But for January through March, our new theme for the inspiration of staff picks is New Year, New Me. So I think that's going to be a lot of fun to run away with. I haven't even thought of mine yet. And I mean, it seems like there's a lot of interesting things that people might come up with, ideas and inspiration that I wouldn't have thought of.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that theme because it has me thinking in a couple different directions where, as I often do with staff picks, there's always an obvious answer. Like, I think New Year, New Me, and it's like, New Year's resolutions. How can I build better and healthier habits? And I think about things like nutrition. I think about things like exercise or...
That was the first obvious choice.
Yeah. But I kind of take that as a challenge to myself. How can I get off the beaten path and pick something interesting that's relevant to me that also still fits this theme?
Well, I will just tell you what the theme the direction that I took that in for me was I ended up picking one nonfiction book and also one fiction, both of which are aimed kind of towards breaking people away from misconceptions or propaganda and just things that we've grown up and come to believe.
I like that.
Yeah.
So
no, that's really good. And
that was the direction I took with it.
I've been kind of thinking about how the pandemic has changed me as a person and the way that I interact with other people. So I'm interested to see, and I haven't started browsing yet, if there are some books out there that are relevant to that. I mean, I know broadly speaking there will be, but I want to see if we have any new books or bestsellers that maybe have tackled that specifically. The ideas of a lot of people have gotten depressed during this pandemic, and you have to deal with that in a certain way because it's not like seasonal depression. It's not even like chronic depression. It's a new thing that a lot of us are facing for the first time.
Like lots of people that would have never been depressed in their life are suddenly facing this.
Right, just because it's a much more stressful situation, and it's a depression that will probably go away as the pandemic gets better, but we don't know when it's going to go away completely, so we're still going to be dealing with this for a little while. And even when we all agree that COVID-19 and its variants are no longer an ongoing threat, there's still going to be some aftermath where it's going to take us a while to shake what we have changed and what we have adapted to do during this pandemic. We conduct business differently. We socialize differently. We create differently. Even our arts are different. A lot of people have used this as an opportunity to, rather than sit at home and do nothing, to build new healthy habits, or to get rid of unhealthy habits, or to learn a skill, to learn a trade even, to educate themselves. And that's what I'm excited about, is a theme of inspiration, and let's make something as positive as we can out of a bad situation. Let's do the best that we can. There are a lot of people, I'm sure, probably going back to college or going to college for the first time. And there are people who have started a small business. Lots of people have gotten into podcasting, or they've started a YouTube channel. They've started streaming on platforms like Twitch. And I think that that's really cool, especially because so many people were affected by this, that of necessity, it means that a wide variety of people have gotten into and done all of these different things. So you have very young kids and also senior citizens who are doing activities now that we might only associate with teens and people in their 20s and early 30s, and vice versa. You also have people in our various age brackets who are picking up all kinds of interesting skills and hobbies and stuff like that otherwise we may never have given a second glance.
Like
because
my favorite that I've seen was when people decided to start making furniture for squirrels.
Yeah.
I'm sure that's already been happening, but it became a very widespread.
It became like a viral sensation.
Yeah. It's interesting to me how much Animal Crossing has taken off. Like you were saying about people in our age brackets and older doing things that we wouldn't have really thought about. And the fact that Animal Crossing has become so big and online. Like, it's not a kid's game anymore. People are making money off of this.
Yes.
People are selling things to other people on the internet.
For better or worse.
Like, yeah, absolutely. But it's so interesting to me, the way that human beings kind of make things work for us in the way that we have to. You know, like if the only thing I can do is sit at home on my computer, maybe I can make money from that.
Yeah.
Improvise, adapt, overcome.
Right.
Yep. The way that we form community is of special interest to me. And we have seen that a lot during this pandemic, where people have formed all kinds of new communities. Existing communities have tightened up, or in some cases, for better or for worse. Maybe they've fallen apart, and people who were doing something before have moved on to a different kind of community or activity. And I think that that's really fascinating to see it happening in real time. Mm-hmm. I hate to say this because it sounds really morbid, so I mean this in the best way possible. This is not to minimize the effect of the pandemic on anybody, because it is a tragic and horrifying situation. But also, like, as a social scientist, there has never been a time in living memory for many people where there would be a better opportunity to gather data and statistics on how we interact with each other and how we respond to those kinds of situations. Absolutely. Because it's so unique. So now we have studies that have been done, and we have numbers to show the way that we react to these kinds of situations. And they're numbers that we just didn't have the means to acquire the last time something like this happened, which was probably the Spanish flu epidemic, which unfolded exactly the same, except there was no internet.
I don't think we would have believed it either if people had tried to hypothesize, if people would give us a number of saying 40% of people will get a vaccination if we are able to come up with one. Like, I don't know that these numbers would have been believable if they were an estimate. Yeah. But now that we can actually see the world, we see how many people, some people are very upset with the way things are going. Some people are adapting and overcoming. And we have to believe those numbers now. It's amazing.
And that will help us next time when something like this happens again. You know, eventually it will. There will always be a next time, and we will be better prepared because we can look now and say, based on our society and the way that we operate and the way that we think and interact with each other, this is probably how we need to do this in order to respond. This is how we need to distribute things. This is the kind of resiliency that we need to build into our supply lines, our manufacturing, our industry, and also into like our communications. And it tells us, it gives us all kinds of fun numbers, like, so this many % of people over 60 started playing Animal Crossing, you know, when it came out. And this is how they got into it. And this is how much % of those people, like, continued to play for 5 to 10 years afterwards. Or whatever.
Interesting numbers.
Yeah, those are fascinating numbers to have. And so if something good can come of it, then that's it. And that's what I'm interested in for these staff picks, and to see just where we go from here and how we can serve you. So make sure you give us our statistics that we need, your statistics. Tell us what programs you want to see. Make sure that, you know, check out our Facebook events. There's a Facebook event for pretty much everything that we do. So if you're going to come, if you're interested in something that we're doing, let us know, comment, follow us on social media. We're all over the place. And again, visit our website. And if there's something that you want us to do, if there's a program you want us to adapt to your needs, or if there is something that we could be doing that maybe we haven't thought of yet, let us know. Email us at email@rowancountylibrary.org, or shoot us a phone call. The number's all over the website and stuff, 606-784-7137. Stop by, see us in person. We love it. Help us help you get back to normal. And we will see you after the turn of the year and the remainder of the holidays. So until then, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Joyous Kwanzaa, Blessed Yule, all of that stuff. And we'll be back January the 8th with another episode of The Reading Room. Until then, I'm Morgan.
I'm Atlanta.
And I'm JoJo.
And this has been The Reading Room, the podcast brought to you by your Rowan County Public Library.